this contemporary art event is concerned. I will leave the curators later to talk about the actual core exhibition. But engagement has been very important to us as the organizer. Throughout the exhibition, today the captions are still going up in all biennales, but when it opens you will see, aside from the main exhibition text, there are educational captions for each of the artworks, because we felt it was really important, and the curators were also very strongly behind that, to make contemporary art accessible. Because for many Singaporean audiences, the Biennale every 2 years is also the first time that many people would have seen a lot of the contemporary art that you find in the Biennale. So that is very important. We also have a key outreach project, the Self-Portrait Our Landscape project, which you will see later in your tour, which has been originated by Matthew Hui himself. That project, in a sense, brought over 3,000 students into the Biennale activities a year ahead of today's press conference and the opening tomorrow. So, in these various ways, we hope really the Biennale becomes a chance, once we have all these wonderful artworks and artists coming from all over the world, from Asia, from Europe, from America, that when they come here, they really do find new audiences, coming from the different cultures of Singapore, who are able to engage with their works, because that really is what we believe the Biennale should do, not just a passive exhibition. I'd like to just take this opportunity to formally thank our artistic director, Matthew Hui, and the Biennale curators, Trevor Smith and Ratu Sora, for working so hard, so very, very hard to put everything together. And I know, because I contributed a lot to the stress of the three as the organizer. Also, to express our sincere gratitude to all the people that have made the Biennale possible, all our sponsors, supporters, collaborators and volunteers. We have with us two of our most important sponsors. Allow me to introduce Mr. Tony Crime, Director, Head Corporate Cultural Sponsorship from Credit Suisse, who is also a key sponsor for the work by Beard Strilly, and you will see tonight at the opening of the Malayan Hotel, they are also a key sponsor of that work by Tatsu Nishi, who is there, blonde gentleman over there. And also we have Mr. Giovanni Vitarare, the General Manager of the Fullerton Heritage, who has been instrumental in facilitating and supporting Tatsu Nishi's Malayan Hotel. And those that enjoy, part of the enjoyment of this artwork is the Fullerton hospitality that everyone that stays at the hotel will enjoy. And last but not least, of course, to the National Arts Council for entrusting the Biennale to SAM. And also, as you go around the exhibition tomorrow onwards, our 500 volunteers who have contributed of themselves and their time to make the Biennale sort of most welcoming experience to all of you, and all the artists, there are many of them above. The Biennale really is about the artists as well, and we are very happy to have them all looming over us at this moment. So I will now pass it to the mic to Matthew to talk about the Biennale.
Thank you very much, Budhi, for a fantastic introduction. Thank you to the sponsors as well. I mean, it's always good to see an intersection between the business and financial worlds and the art world. I mean, that shows that in Singapore we are beginning to understand what it means to live in a contemporary culture. Open House is really an invitation to one and all to come to visit, to have a chat, to discuss things, and also to partake of our food and culture. One of the first things that we spoke about when we first met as a team was that we wanted to concentrate very much on the artist process, to get into the core ideas that individual artists have, and to trace that, to see how they develop their work into what you see around you today at various venues. Of course, the question was a loaded one, and I think when we first got together, I said, right, we're going to look at artistic process. Now, how are we going to deal with it? Artistic process is something which is so different. Each artist has his or her own idea and own process of working. As such, it was really impossible to categorize them. So what we did really was to try to look at the venues in which the exhibition was going to be held, and to try to think of a way in which we could communicate the artistic process or the variety of artistic process to yourselves as the audience, and very importantly to the Singaporean public. It's extremely important that local biennales refer back to the country of its origin. And so what we did was, in the end, when the venues were settled, it percolated down to 4 venues. We had SAM, Singapore Museum, and 8Q, SAM and 8Q. We have the National Museum, we have the airport here, and the public side of Marina Bay. And as we discussed, we realized that the venues grew from small to large. If you want to look at it in a very simplistic way, the home and 8Q in particular reminded us very much of the Housing Development Board set, where you have a common corridor, you have individual doors in which you enter apartments. So we felt that as a site that resonated very much with the home and the apartment. And then we moved on to the city, and that it naturally fell into the hands of the National Museum, where within the city you have that constant dialogue of transactional exchanges that happen in the city. You buy and you sell, you travel from one spot to another, you get exposed to media, to marketing, and so on and so forth. So that naturally took its place there. For Singapore being one of the largest airports and seaports, we based works that have dealt with travel, intercultural exchange, the flow of materials, production. Those ideas were then rooted in the idea of movement, and hence those works are found here at Palm Airport. And last but not least, Marina Bay being a very public site, we cited a highly public artwork in that venue, but that also pulled together a very private experience of a very public icon. So in a sense, that was what we tried to do, so that anybody coming into the Biennale would first of all be exposed to the artworks and hence the artistic process, and to have these artworks and processes resonate with the venues, and so that the venues actually make sense. And being Singapore, it is in a sense an open house to the venues, and as I said before, in a way that we are looking very closely at artistic process, it is also an open house to the artistic process. And in that way, we've been trying to communicate this. So that was really our start. I'd like to invite my two curators now to perhaps share, from your perspective, in terms of, some of the thoughts and actually very specific points to which you thought was important to open.
I mean, artistic process is, as Matthew said, a very diverse and almost intangible thing. I mean, one of the hard things is how to express that to an audience and how is that visible when so much art making erases that process. It seems like seamless, you don't have any sense of what has happened or what's in a production. So part of the way we wanted to bring that out was to commission a lot of new work, to work quite specifically in a lot of cases, and really invite artists to Singapore to try and work with the sites with the community, with various local stories and histories, and to really, connect to the city and really bring out that process of working in quite an active and visible way. And for many artists who have not been here before, so that was a really exciting opportunity, was to bring artists to a place they were perhaps unfamiliar with, and to really try and spend time as well, not just trying to fly in and fly out and make some kind of facile comment about a place, but to really try and dig a little deeper and make real connections. And we feel a Biennale, one of the very important things that it can do is to be able to not just present, but also to produce, and to work as a producer, and to really enable artists to realise, very ambitious projects, to push their practice in a way that they may not have been able to before, to work with the site, which so many artists today love to do and respond extremely well to. And as curators, that's one of the most rewarding things I think that you can do, is to have that ongoing, very engaged dialogue with artists and really develop things almost together. And that, for me, has been one of the most inspiring and significant experiences of this project.
Yeah, one of the things that perhaps I should mention, because we're here in this magnificent hall that was once the arrivals and departures hall of this airport, and we're surrounded by a work by Michael Beutler, who came in here about 6 months ago, had a look around, and explored the city both in terms of how the city looks, but also the kinds of products and materials that are available here. And when we talk about process, this is a very particular kind of process, but I think it's an aspect that's threaded through a lot of the work in this exhibition. That act of making things. What is our relationship to objects? Not just the act of making, that kind of process of making, is not something that is just about work or about making money, but it's about creating meaning, it's about exchanging ideas. And so in this site we have a lot of work that, in a way, kind of takes on this question of labor. For many years we've sort of live in a culture that understands, buying and selling things, but I think like artists make things, and they make things in particular kinds of ways that point out to these locations in the world, and that's why we have these different venues, the airport, the HDB, the malls, the markets, because we want people to not check their experiences at the door. We want you to think about your experiences in the apartment building, or in the malls and markets, because contemporary artists come from many different cultures, many different positions, but we're sharing this space together, and I think that this exhibition hopefully sets up a kind of an open transaction around those kinds of questions, to locate, not just the act of making objects, but if you think about the malls and markets where you're buying and selling and exchanging them, there's communication processes, there's ways that we identify. I'm the way that I'm dressed signifies a certain kind of things. Our esteemed colleagues here who are so beautifully dressed, and I'm admiring the suit.
And the tie.
We all communicate through objects, and then of course when you get into the private space, like, what do you choose to bring into your private space? What do you choose to bring from out in the world to hold close to yourself? And so these are some of the kinds of questions I think that the Biennale throws open, and I hope you enjoy exploring.
Thank you all of you. Today we also have a